Once upon a time, in a lush green valley nestled between rolling hills, lived a large flock of sheep. Their days were filled with grazing on the soft grass, and their nights were spent huddled together under the watchful gaze of their shepherd. Life was peaceful and uneventful until one fateful day when everything changed. One afternoon, a young and curious sheep named Wooly decided to venture beyond the familiar meadow where the flock usually grazed. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, he wandered further and further away from his woolly companions. The shepherd, old and wise, noticed Wooly's absence and raised the alarm. "Heed my call, my faithful canines," the shepherd cried out, his voice echoing across the valley. "Wooly has strayed too far. Go, find him and bring him back before nightfall." The shepherd's loyal dog, a majestic German shepherd named Ranger, didn't hesitate for a moment. With keen senses and unwavering determination, he took off in search of the missing sheep. Meanwhile, Wooly, oblivious to the frantic search party looking for him, continued his adventure. He explored caves adorned with glistening crystals, hopped over babbling brooks, and even made friends with a family of mischievous squirrels. Time slipped by and the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Realizing that he had been gone for quite some time, a wave of fear washed over Wooly. The playful breeze suddenly seemed menacing, and the rustling leaves sounded like whispers in the wind. Fearful and alone, Wooly bleated out for help, hoping against hope that someone would hear his distress call. Ranger, the shepherd's dog, followed the faint sound of Wooly's bleating, and soon found himself at the edge of the dark and dense Wisp. Known for its towering trees and eerie silence, the Whisperwood was a place the sheep were forbidden to go. Legend had it that the forest was home to all sorts of mythical creatures, some friendly and some not so friendly. But Ranger, fearless and devoted, wasn't about to let that deter him. He had a job to do, and nothing would stand in his way. As Ranger ventured deeper into the woods, the air grew heavy with the scent of pine, and the sound of his own paws on the forest floor seemed to echo ominously around him. Just when his hope began to dwindle, he heard a familiar bleating. Pushing through a thicket of bushes, he found Wooly huddled beneath a large tree, his eyes wide with terror as a sly fox approached, its eyes gleaming with mischief. Without hesitation, Ranger sprang into action. He let out a ferocious bark, startling both the fox and Wooly. The fox, taken aback by the sudden appearance of this imposing canine, turned tail and fled into the shadows of the Whisperwood. Overcome with gratitude, Wooly rushed towards Ranger, showering him with grateful licks. "Oh, Ranger, you saved me from Mr. Fox's clutches. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come." As the two friends made their way out of the Whisperwood, the shepherd's voice carried on the evening breeze. "Wooly, Wooly, where are you, my little lamb?" Hearing the shepherd's voice, Wooly felt a surge of love and belonging. He had never realized how much he would cherish the familiar sound of the shepherdess whistle or the warmth of the flock presence. As they emerged from the trees, the shepherd and the rest of the flock rushed to greet them. The shepherd, his face etched with worry, quickly transformed into a broad smile when he saw that Wooly was safe. "Oh, my Wooly wonder, you're back. I was so worried. Never wander off like that again." Wooly, nuzzling against the shepherd, promised to never stray so far again. In the days that followed, Wooly became a changed sheep. He no longer yearned to explore beyond the meadow. Instead, he found joy in the safety and camaraderie of the flock. He learned that while curiosity was a wonderful thing, it shouldn't lead him into danger. Most importantly, he realized the value of his friendship with Ranger. From that day on, Wooly and Ranger became inseparable. They grazed side by side in the meadows and napped in the warm sunshine. They played hide and seek among the hills and raced each other across the fields. Their bond of friendship grew stronger with each passing day. Now, whenever the flock grazed in the meadow, the sheep would often reminisce about Wooly's adventure and the bravery of Ranger, the shepherd's dog. They gathered close, their woolly bodies forming a tight circle, as they shared stories of daring escapes and narrow escapes. Wooly, once the mischievous adventurer, now the most ardent supporter of the shepherd's rules, would recount his experience in the Whisperwood, emphasizing the importance of obedience and staying within the safety of the group. "I never thought the Whisperwood could be so scary," he'd say, his voice trembling at the memory. And I was so foolish to wander off. But thank goodness for Ranger. If he hadn't come for me, I don't know what would have happened. The younger sheep would nod their heads in solemn agreement, their eyes wide with admiration for Wooly and Ranger. They understood the gravity of Wooly's mistake and the life-saving actions of the brave canine. But it wasn't just the younger sheep who held admiration for these two. Even the oldest and wisest sheep in the flock looked up to them. They saw in Wooly a reminder of the dangers that lay beyond their familiar meadow, and in Ranger, the embodiment of courage and loyalty. The sheep in the flock were a tight-knit community, bound together by their shared experiences and the knowledge that they could rely on one another. They knew that if one of them strayed too far or got into trouble, the others would be there to help. And at the heart of this community stood Wooly and Ranger, their friendship a beacon of trust and responsibility for the entire flock. As the years went by, the tale of Wooly's adventure and Ranger's heroism became a legend in the valley. It was a story that was told and retold, each telling adding a new layer of admiration and respect for the two friends. The young lambs would listen with wide-eyed wonder as their elders shared the tale, and they would look up at a Ranger, who by then had become the elder statesman of the shepherd's dogs, with reverence and awe. For Wooly and Ranger, the recognition was secondary to the bond they shared. They knew that their friendship had not been forged in the fires of public acclaim, but in the quiet moments of companionship and mutual trust. They had been through thick and thin together, and that was what mattered most to them. And so, as the sun set over the valley, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Wooly and Ranger stood side by side, watching the flock graze peacefully in the meadow. They had faced danger together, overcome adversity as a team, and emerged from it all with their friendship intact. In the Achatha, they had found a companion who accepted them for who they were, a friend who would always be there for them, no matter what. And in that realization, they understood the true meaning of trust and responsibility.